Hello and welcome everyone to another live episode of the Culture Nerd Podcast. This week, we're going to talk about the MCU. I know we talk a lot about DC, and the last few times we've talked about the MCU, it's been kind of in a negative light, but I think this time we're going to talk about some of the good and the bad that's coming with it, and some of the recent stuff that came out of the trades and then got seemingly debunked by actual reporters, which was a little weird. So let's talk about, is Marvel Studios actually in trouble? Or is all this insider info that popped out of Variety last week, is it all just nonsense? Is it a hit job? What is it? So let's sit down, let's talk about it, and we'll go through all the rumors and everything in between. So let's jam. Michael, you have better watch Gen V. Have you watched it yet?
I feel sickness in my body and on my home, and it has hit my wife. It is hitting me as we speak. I'm powering through. I'm sure whenever I am forced to take a day off of work, I will then watch Gen 5. I just got caught up with Loki.
It's V, not 5. It's V as in Vought.
I think of it as Gen 5 Pokemon. I think of them as Pokemon, so that's why I keep calling it Gen 5.
All right. Anyways, the finale happened, and it leads right into the next season of The Boys, so you better catch up soon.
Okay.
What else can you say about it? I mean, there's so many things I want to tell you about it, but you haven't watched it yet, so I don't know.
And also, the next time I turn on Amazon, I'm watching Invincible Season 2. So even then, you're going to have to wait. There's other things I want to watch.
First things first, did you guys watch the finale of Attack on Titan?
Is this the actual finale of it, or is it the part one of the finale?
All right, well, have you watched it?
No, I was unaware that this had just dropped. I haven't logged into your Crunchyroll yet.
Use your own Hulu, too.
Okay.
Anyways, like I said, spoilers for everyone who did watch it. Yes, it was exactly like the manga, so I've known about the ending for a very long time. Good things was that it was not only exactly like the manga, but they actually added a bit more to make some of the stuff that people didn't like, make them understand why it was important. So he actually fleshed out a lot of context to the same stuff was all there. Same beat for beat.
I'm very happy that this was able to stay within that canon so that this is the definitive work of this show, and we're not going to see Attack on Titan S in a couple of years. I'm sure we'll see movies. I'm sure there are specials. This is too big of a franchise to not have those things. You don't think we'll get an OVA after all of this?
Michael, there's no possible way they can continue.
They could do but they could make another telling of it, if you will.
When? How? With what characters?
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's that's very true as well.
And especially with the ending of the show, they had an epilogue set a few thousand years later. So, I mean, they ended. It's kind of like when How to Train Your Dragon ended, and you're like, how are they going to make another one? Well, I mean, the movie ended with Hiccup and his wife and kids decades later. So that's kind of that. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like it ended, and it kind of like removed any room for interpretation of, oh, they can do a sequel. No. Unless they want to do a complete retelling of the exact same story set in a different time period with different characters, it's done.
Wow. That's great. I'm excited. Is it just a bunch of long episodes? Is it 2.5 hours?
I watch it. Just go on and look at the lengths. I mean, this was season 4, and season 4, I think, was technically only 26 episodes, but they kept releasing it 3 episodes at a time for the course of 10 years.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Because I feel like I've been watching Attack on Titan since I was a baby.
Yeah. Well, we weren't. I mean, we were still in our mid to late 20s, but yeah.
It felt like baby times to me.
Attack on Titan. It had its ending. Happy that they did the thing. Happy that it was as equally as traumatic as every time you read the manga. And I liked that they fleshed out more. To me, it's like the best explanation is Dragon Ball Z, the movies, Resurrection of F, and then the Dragon Ball Super story arc where they went like the same story but bigger. Like that's essentially what we had with the manga and then the show. Like he actually was taking bullet points, beat for beat, everything was there, line upon line, everything's there. But instead of just saying, okay, 1-to-1, let's do a 1 and then add a little bit more so that people won't bitch about this one too.
Well, and the show has the benefit of it being in that of it getting to show its ending again. I kind of think about how in the One Piece show, Luffy has just hit Gear 5, and the creator of the show said he was influenced by the fact that this gets to be animated. This isn't just something on paper. This is going to be something, an art form that is going to then fight and stuff like that, and then thinking about designing it in that way. So great, you wrote this comic book that's celebrated. Now you get to see the visual interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Expand upon those scenes.
Yeah.
And it's like the director's cut.
In more enjoyable news, RoboCop Rogue City was a thumbs up. I'd buy that for $60 to $70. I haven't played it yet. The reviews have been kind of all over the place. A lot of people gave it like 7 to 8 in that region. It sounds like a solid game. And for anyone who loved the original RoboCops, this is the game for you.
It looked like RoboCop. He was choking people. He was shooting people. He was like, stop resisting. It looked great.
Take that, creep. It's like perfect. Like, yeah, no, I'm all for it. So I haven't played it yet. I got really sucked into Spider-Man, and to put in context for people who are watching and playing, I just got the Venom suit.
Okay.
I'm level 40.
Does the suit also evolve with that level? So is the suit now at level 40, or do you still?
No. So the way it works, I mean, it's kind of like an RPG fashion. You have a skill tree. So I had all my skill tree stuff already unlocked, and by the time I got the suit, I'm like, oh, now a new skill tree I got to do. So it's like, but I'm way stronger than I should be at this point. Like every boss that I fought, I've just been like, pop, knocked you over, bitch, and it's like really quick. My son is like, he was playing it too, and he actually got a little bit ahead of me, and I laughed because he's like further in the story than me. So I sat there and watched him go past me, and I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm like, you're level 12, dude. And he's like, I'm not doing the side stuff. I'm like, I'm level 40. And he's like, oh, why? And I'm like, because anytime something popped up on the screen, I did it. I'm like, oh, a Spider-Bot. Oh, Mysterio. Oh, this. And I just did everything. So now it's like, he opened his map, and he's got scattered icons everywhere. And I opened mine, there's like 3 on the screen. And it's all the story missions.
Will you be able? Oh, they're just the story missions left?
So, like, okay. I'm just like trying to find things to do. I'm like, I don't want to do the story yet. I don't want it to be over.
It's over, Taylor. You did it. You beat the game. I mean, you're on the way of beating the game.
I'm on the way. Yeah, I know.
Is there a new game plus? Are you going to have to beat it again after this?
So you can platinum it as is right now. New Game Plus is supposed to be coming out in an update due around Christmas time.
Okay.
So,
and that means more missions and things like that?
Probably not. I mean, that's not how they did the first one. I mean, that's the DLC was for. So if we're going to get DLC, we're going to get that. But on a completely separate note, Insomniac, separate yet related, Insomniac revealed that going forward, the focus Spider-Man is going to be Miles, which makes total sense, especially if you play this game. I mean, Peter doesn't die, but something status quo does change a bit. And
Miles is such a huge character. Miles is been brought into the larger Spider-Man lexicon, and it is time for us to celebrate Miles. He's got more powers. He's like a Batman Beyond Spider-Man. Let's get behind this.
I'm just reading some of the comments. Sorry. But aside from all that, I mean, a few months ago, I think I teased on. I didn't tease. I just said it flat out. Apparently, the voice actor who does the voice of Miles let slip at a convention that they're already working on Miles Morales 2. So we already know the next follow-up game is another Miles-centered game.
Yeah.
So it may not even just be Spider-Man 2. It may just be Spider-Man 3, Miles Morales. I run this bitch. Like, it's one of those things.
You think it'll be a new engine then, or just be based on this one?
It'll be based on this one. I mean, they made this one fairly quickly after they did Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, and then Miles. Like the beat for beat, they have their engine. They just now need to flesh out their characters. And there's plenty of characters to do now. I mean, this game, I have some gripes so far. One is the unceremoniously quick and off-screen killing of certain villains made by Craven. Craven needs to stop killing people. I'm not far enough in the game. I know it's how it's going to go. They kept referencing this is my last hunt, so I'm like, okay, so Craven's going to die because that's what happens in the comics. They can't name drop the name of the story arc without foreshadowing that he's going to die. But I've also noticed a few side missions have teased Mysterio coming back. They've teased Cletus Cassidy was like the focus of one of these side stories. So like, Carnage is somewhere in the mix.
You don't do a Venom. You don't introduce the Venom symbiote if you don't have Carnage right around the corner. You know what I mean?
Even if you wrap up the story with this version of Venom, because spoilers for anyone who didn't see it coming a mile away, this story is Harry. Harry's Venom in this game. So Eddie Brock is not around yet, but you can assume that if Venom comes back, it will be Eddie. So that's just how I see it. So if they ended up going forward with like the Venom symbiote god, like Null, I think, 100%. But they also confirmed that the new Wolverine game that they're working on that should be coming out in the next couple of years is also set in the same canon. So
tell me more. There's been good Wolverine games in the past. How is this one looking?
Well, I mean, we only got that one teaser, but it's made by Insomniac. So, I mean, they knocked it out of the park with Spider-Man. So if they just take Spider-Man out and put Wolverine, it's going to be a win.
One of the things that Spider-Man games do is you basically get to fly around. Like, you know what I mean? The swinging aspect of it. Wolverine's going to climb buildings, but what do they do to give you that him just running through the city?
They could give him a berserker rage and just make him crazy, or give him a motorcycle. Give Wolverine a motorcycle and just let him fly around the city like that, or just not set it in the city. I mean,
I almost wonder if you need to put it in the Serengeti, right? And then have all these things happen just so you can just see Wolverine running through the woods and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, as funny as it is, one of the best Wolverine game that they ever made, was the movie adaptation of the worst Wolverine movie.
Yeah, and the game is great. It's got all these costumes, great missions. It's a solid game.
It's honestly ridiculous. I mean, X-Men Origins Wolverine is hella crazy. It's such a good game. If you can find a way to play it on a PS3, so much fun. The game starts with you attacking people, and there's literally a scene where he throws a dude into a helicopter blade, and then just the Wolverine logo pops up. That's how they start the game. I'm like, oh my god, that's gory. But
it's crazy to think, because we're about to transition into, we're in the era of PG superheroes. It's crazy to think about all those games where the whole Punisher game was just killing people, right? It was like a Saw movie, but you just happened to be the Punisher. Yeah. That game would not be made today.
But at the same time, so the director of the Blade movie actually confirmed that Marvel gave them the green light to make it rated R. So Marvel is finally being open to rated R shit.
I think James Gunn I think James Gunn put his foot in the door. And I think that Disney needs to get adults back into this franchise, because I think that's one of the things that might be lacking. I've heard lots of things about this Blade movie and in one of the script versions, Blade was demoted and he wasn't even the main character.
Yeah, so there was a female vampire hunter, literally the Panderverse thing.
Yes.
Straight up. There were so many rumors. So last week, as I mentioned, there was a Variety article that came out that basically said Marvel's in shambles.
I've seen other videos on the internet by other prolific nerds, Taylor, saying the doom of the MCU.
Right. So the MCU, the article is written by Tatiana Siegel, which, if anyone remembers her name, she was the voice behind pretty much every hit job that went against Warner Brothers and DC for the last 10 years.
I didn't remember that detail, Taylor.
Literally every time there was an article saying the Snyderverse is a cult and Snyderverse is going to cause terrorism, it was her. She was the one that was the one, right? So I read it. I'm like, okay, we'll see what you got to say. She did indicate a lot of things that were true, And the first one right off the bat was because of the holy crap, Jonathan Majors might go to jail. The first thing that Marvel was planning to do was possibly just kill off Kang the Conqueror and replace him with Doctor Doom.
Even though that feels so abrupt, the fact that they didn't even know that Kang was supposed to be this version of Kang until the end of Loki season 1, it's why all those shows, when I would ask you, why does this feel like it's going nowhere? Because it was going nowhere. They didn't know what they were going to do with all of this, and now they've kind of found their way into this multiverse war that is coming.
Yeah. And I think the saving grace of what the MCU is going to have going forward is when they start funneling the story into an actual story. But for now, they're still just all over the place.
Taylor, they need an Avengers Part 1, 2, and 3. We need to see the movie where the team gets together. We need to see the movie struggle and fail. We need to see them rise above. You don't do that in 2 movies.
No, I mean, they have the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. And unless Secret Wars is a 2-part event, it's not going to work. Because all the rumors of that the Kang Dynasty was supposed to be like essentially the Young Avengers and the Avengers B team or whatever, that the remaining Avengers going against versions of Kang and losing, and then them saying, fuck, we need to get more backup. And then they go into the realm of the multiverse and start recruiting, essentially. So the big rumor was going that the actual lead.
They ruined the MCU so badly. We have to go to other universes to be like, let's get Miles Morales in our universe.
So the big rumor was that the leads for Secret Wars is going to be Tobey Maguire and Hugh Jackman. And they're going to be the 2 front and center characters that are going to end the MCU, essentially. Which is because, I mean, that's the big thing, is that Kevin Feige and everyone behind the scenes are looking at the end of Secret Wars to be the grand reset. And they're going to essentially end the multiversal war and then remake the MCU in whatever image they want to make it. So some characters can stay, some characters will get replaced.
It's so funny that we have this conversation about Warner Brothers properties, and everybody gets up in arms, and it's such a deep conversation. Disney is going to do this. You have no
same damn thing.
You have you have no say in this whatsoever. We will figure this out. South Park pandering to them about what they've been doing is the only one that has brought that like mainstream attention, right? Like that's the stuff where Taylor's dad goes, Taylor, why did South Park make fun of this? And you're like, well, let's talk about these movies.
Wait for it. I'm reading some of the comments here. There's a lot of stuff in here that I want to touch base on, everybody. So
touch the chat room, Taylor. Let's touch it.
Right, let me get through it. There's one rumor that Kevin Feige is allegedly thinking about leaving Marvel after Secret Wars.
Of course he is going to.
Yeah, he's probably. I mean, he's how old now, and how long has he been devoting his entire life to Marvel? He probably wants to retire. I could believe
He's made more money than he'll ever need in his life. All this brings is a headache. This is done. It is time to hand this off to somebody else. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just reading some of the other stuff.
Pop them up. Let me touch them.
No, I'm just trying to figure out. So those aren't relevant.
Is this the part of the show where we start doing Terminator 2 freestyle?
I'm actually realizing that we've touched base on most of these comments without even realizing they were in the comments.
Well, and we'll probably circle back to it again.
Julian McMahon was good as Dr. Doom. Would he return? So
is that the guy from Nip Tuck?
I liked his portrayal of Dr. Doom, but that version of Dr. Doom was not it. Like, he did a great job.
We need to talk about as comic book loving people, what do we want the new Doom to look like? Because
they can look like Dr. Doom.
Okay, heard, but are they going to CG him? Or is this going to be a practical costume? Because I feel like they're going to Tony Stark him. I feel like they're going to do something like that.
So I've explained this a few times, and this has been my biggest issue all the time. So I've always felt that the best approach to CG is for touch-up work. If you can practical effects 99% of the job and then clean it up with CG, beautiful, do it. I mean, you can look at, say, for instance, hell, I mean, even any of the Star Wars properties in the last 10, 15 years, right? Episode 2 and Episode 3, 90% of the films were made on a green screen, so they look a little disjointed, they look kind of funky. And then in the new Disney Star Wars with the TV shows, the big thing that they've been doing is a mix of practical and CGI, and that's why some of it looks so damn good. Like all of the Order 66 scenes, you actually have dudes dressed up as clone troopers. So like that makes a huge difference. Obviously, the rest of it's CGI, but the fact that they use the CGI to clean it up is why The Force Awakens looks so damn good compared to some of the other movies that came out around the same time, or even
I didn't even realize that because it's so funny. Of those movies, The Force Awakens is just a fun Star Wars ride. It's almost like a little kid ride. There's ups and downs, and you get to see all the things you want, and you're like, okay, now we're really going to dig into it. They never dug into it, but that movie, you're right. They built all those sets. They built the Millennium Falcon again.
They did so much of it in practical. It was kind of amazing how good it looked because it was the old way of doing things, and it reaffirmed that like it needs to be that way. Like with Zack Snyder, he's always been praised as having a great eye for CGI, and yes, there's a lot of times where his CGI is the entire screen. Everyone's in CGI, but he's also known for doing like 90% physical with then the CGI cleanup. So like Batman most of the time doesn't have a cape on when he's doing action scenes, and they CGI the cape during the action stuff. But when he's not doing the action stuff, he's fully suited up.
But also think about Watchmen. A lot of that movie CG, so much of that movie is real stuff with real sets. And that movie has such again, whether you like that interpretation or you don't, it's got a great place in the world. Those places feel real.
So there is, yes, I'm reading some of this other stuff. Yes, it's why it's disjointed. It's, there's a rumor that Sam is going to realize the world needs Avengers at the end of Cap 4. That's actually something that's pretty prominent rumor. The big rumor was that at the end of Captain America 4, with my same issues, that Sam being Captain America, he's not a super soldier, but his suit is super. So that's going to be the big factor. I mean, he's wearing a vibranium suit. He's going to be like Black Panthering it up a bit. So
Taylor, everyone in the MCU is a Black Panther. I watched Black Panther 2. There was 5 Black Panthers in that movie.
Yeah, because they didn't know who was going to be the final Black Panther till they finally like started filming, and they're like,
right? Because there's the bodyguards that have the double suit. Then there's Ironheart. Is there? I'm trying to think if there's another one. I mean, I feel like there was 4 different robot suits in that movie.
There's so much stuff. But yeah, so at the end of Avengers, at the end of Cap 4, there is going to be Captain America saying, I need to have a team, because what's the resolution of that movie? Red Hulk and the Thunderbolts. So it's going to lead right into like, yeah, we need some Avengers because some shit's going down. So that's very much a real thing that's going to happen.
But Taylor, how do we even get to Red Hulk? Is there another Hulk movie, or are they going to put Hulk in one of these movies?
No, so the main villain of Captain America 4 is Thunderbolt Ross, which unfortunately the actor did pass away, but they have Harrison Ford playing him now. And that's a weird shift, but okay, cool. So William Hurt passed away. Harrison Ford's now the new one. And the Thunderbolts are going to be a thing. And I'm not sure. I think he's the president, Thunderbolt Ross, in this new movie. And now he's also going to be the Red Hulk at the same time. So that's going to be a thing.
Is this where we start getting all those other characters from Captain America, the Captain America TV show? Is that when we start seeing like U.S. Marshal and those types of people?
Yeah, U.S. Agent, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what the Thunderbolts is that essentially like the Thunderbolts is going to be the Suicide Squad of Marvel, but it's all super soldiers. Like the whole team has been heavily criticized because it's literally the same character with the same powers, but a different version. Like Black Widow, Winter Soldier, U.S. Agent, like Red Guardian. It's like, wow, there's just a lot of super soldiers and a lot of the same character, but just there's a Russian version. There's a brainwashed version. There's the American one.
We're so far away from. It's been so long since Black Widow came out. Does anybody care about any of those characters?
Yes. I thought Florence Pugh did a fantastic job as Black Widow, and I want to see more of her as Black Widow, but I think that the Thunderbolts angle is kind of a wasted effort unless it leads into these characters joining the Avengers proper and then fighting with them to stop Kang.
Or the Avengers kick their ass and just continue the mantle without them.
Like I see a lot of these side tangents of stories that make zero sense. Like, okay, we're going this direction for this many movies, but we're also expected to believe that after this whole Thunderbolts side story, that this time next year we're going to have Kang killing everybody. Like,
Taylor,
there's a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time.
Taylor, where are the Eternals?
Apparently,
where are the Eternals? Remember the Eternals, everybody? Why isn't there something linking to that at every corner?
Are you ready for the link?
Oh, is it going to come in Loki?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I heard it's going to come later, but apparently the link is at the island of Tiamat, the one that the big island in the middle of the Pacific, the big dude hanging out of the ocean. His body is essentially calcified adamantium now. So that's how they're going to harvest it and bring adamantium to the MCU. So they have a plan to rectify some of that. But at the same time, I thought the Eternals was fun. It made zero sense for the greater picture. It also should have been a miniseries. But on the side note, we have that movie, Werewolf by Night, which was a fantastic movie. It's now in color.
It's now in color.
It's super gory in color. Cool. They announced that a Marvel Spotlight is going to be a specific label, that they're going to do these little one-off stories, and the new Echo show coming out in January is a 5-episode Marvel Spotlight show.
Does that mean it's not part of main canon?
No, it means it is part of main canon, but it has nothing to do with the overall story.
Okay.
So that's essentially what they're doing, is now they're labeling things that they do or do not matter to the rest of the story.
Have we heard if the Marvels is a Spotlight movie yet?
I don't know. The movie comes out at the end of this week.
Are you going to go see it? Do you have it?
No.
You don't want to see it?
It's 90 minutes. And I didn't like the first one. Why am I going to?
It's crazy that it's so funny because we're talking about their TV side is so crazy, but why not make this a 3-episode TV show? Why not just flush this out a little bit and not make this to go to the theaters?
It should have been. So many other stories should have been theater-related stories, but this is the one that they put on the theater. So, okay.
I wish they would have just done a Daredevil movie and have Spider-Man show up and really give him some heavies and really be like, this ain't Netflix's Daredevil. This guy hits hard and we got good graphics.
But ironically, so we had Daredevil reappear in She-Hulk and reintroduce himself to the greater MCU in the yellow and black costume. And then in the Echo trailer, when they're showing the flashbacks, they have Daredevil in the Netflix costume. So now everyone's like, what the actual fuck is going on? Like, you told us multiple times now in official documents that the Netflix universe is not canon. Yet now you're pulling direct visual assets from that universe just to screw with fans.
Daredevil has a closet with little braille markings. He wears different suits for different occasions. Daredevil has always been known for his fabulous wardrobe.
Yeah. But so in my head canon was that even though that the Netflix verse isn't canon anymore, following what Bullseye did to Daredevil, he had to get a new costume to show that he's not the same dude. So he's wearing the yellow costume. That's in my head canon.
And you could also even do it like that was the first suit. This is the right. His first suit's a little bit more stealthy. He doesn't know he wants to be a superhero. Now he's like, I am coming and I wear yellow, so you will see me in lights. You will never not get away from me. I'm the Daredevil. He shows up in yellow.
That's pulling out a page from Moon Knight, where Moon Knight's like, I wear white so they know I'm coming to kill them. Like that's Moon Knight's MO.
I liked Moon Knight. Is Moon Knight supposed to be part of the Avengers and murder fucking aliens and kegs? Like, where does Moon Knight fit into all of this?
That's the biggest thing. So all this stuff about the MCU being in this weird shambly place from Variety did talk about the fact that the MCU as a greater whole has a very disjointed direction. And we've had these big stories And I want to see part 2. Like, I want to see more Moon Knight because I loved Moon Knight. It has nothing to do with anything else in the MCU because I do not think for a second this guy who's fighting Egyptian gods is going to be like, oh, here's some aliens. I got to go fight them too. He'll be like, nah, I got some other shit to deal with. And he'll just do that.
I'll tell you this, though. Moon Knight and Shang-Chi could absolutely find something to do together because they're like, what else do you do with Shang-Chi?
So he's actually supposed to be a part of the new Avengers. So he's actually supposed, I mean, because we got the Illuminati Junior at the post-credit scene with Wong and
the Illumawati. That's what he says.
Yeah. But we have essentially like the Illuminati in the making show up at the end of that movie. And they hinted at something bigger happening. And a lot of people say that microscopic signal was Kang from the Microverse or whatever.
Ant-Man.
But who knows? But at the same time, even Ant-Man, if you watch that movie, when Ant-Man ends,
first off, it's difficult to watch.
It is difficult to watch. But at the end of that movie, when Scott is like, I made it out, everything's good, but he starts questioning reality, and then everyone around him is wearing purple and green in the colors of Kang. I was like, is he out? Did they just really not stick the landing well enough for people to realize that this is really bad? Like,
they didn't. And if that's true, that was lost on people, and it's not appearing, and it hasn't appeared again.
So the Young Avengers are going to be a thing too, right? I mean,
the Young Avengers was pushed so hard in WandaVision. We clearly saw 2 characters in the Winter. What was I keep wanting to call it the Winter Soldier show. What was that show called?
It was Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but yeah,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We clearly set that up, and we did the same thing in the Hawkeye show. I thought that team was going to come. It never came, Taylor.
Ironically, every show within the first wave of Disney Plus was setting up the Young Avengers.
I even thought Miss Marvel was going to. I thought the little girl was going to be the first member. I thought she was going to be on there too.
No, literally, it's supposed to be. So allegedly, the Young Avengers team is going to consist of Miss Marvel, Young Hawkeye, whatever her name, Kate Bishop's, whatever. What is her
Taylor?
Code name? I don't know.
The shows.
Does she have a code name?
The shows aren't interesting enough. I watch them, but I can't tell you.
The shows, but does she have a code name in the comics other than Kate Bishop? I know she goes by Hawkeye a couple times, but I don't think they're going to call her Hawkeye.
Woman is what she goes by now.
Okay, what is the point of the Agatha show? The Agatha show is actually supposed to be introducing Wanda's kids in like MCU proper.
To have them, she was going to pull on when they were older and then introduce them, or like do some weird.
She's going to pull them out of magic, out of the realm of what Wanda did, and make them real.
Yo, if you make them real, Wanda, Scarlet Witch is coming back.
Yeah, I knew Scarlet Witch is coming back, and there's rumors that she is coming back. So I don't even know if that's real or not. But
we'll at this point, if they're talking about redoing all of this, you absolutely have to bring back the old stars, right?
And that's actually the big one. All right, the biggest rumor of the last week and a half has been Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans have signed on to return for Secret Wars.
Guys,
whether or not
Hollywood has not worked for a year. Robert Downey Jr. is ready for a big contract. Chris Evans is ready to know that he has a job for a year. Taylor, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It does, because the big part about the Variety article was that they realized very quickly that the MCU, as of right now, doesn't quite work, and people need to feel that passion to come back. And what's the best way to do it is to bring back Scarlett Johansson, bring back Robert Downey Jr., bring back Chris Evans, bring back all the characters you killed off. If they're variants or whatever, have the core Avengers return on screen with whatever else the hell you're doing in the background. But I'm reading this comment right here. The real question is, how many shows does Marvel have in development that they haven't announced yet? Quite a few, actually.
I bet even more than you think. And weird superheroes that you're like, oh, that's interesting. They're doing that before they're doing this. I bet there's also some weird curveballs in there as well.
Well, the Wonder Man show got canceled quietly. That's
okay.
The thing that they killed. But on that separate note, I was actually talking to someone earlier. Right now, Loki season 2, which is going to end this week, and the Marvels, which is debuting this week, are it. because the writer strike and the actor strike has actually stopped production on everything that was in production.
Wow.
The next project that was due to come out was Deadpool 3, which was going to be a big multiverse story. That's not finished yet, and it's on hold until it does get a chance to finish. Captain America 4 wasn't finished. Thunderbolts hadn't been started yet.
Daredevil got canceled and said, go back and write me a better show.
Daredevil had filming done. They didn't like it. They killed the project, fired everybody, hired a new writing staff, and apparently now the directors of the Loki show and the showrunner from Punisher and Netflix's Punisher and Marvel's Moon Knight is now running the show.
Great.
So that's a better sounding team than what we had before.
Yeah.
But there's
in fact,
a lot going on.
Why is it Moon Knight fighting Daredevil? That would be a great 3-episode arc.
There was actually this long-standing rumor, and this was something that actually made its way online a while ago, was that the big plan for all these supernatural characters, Blade, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight,
the werewolf
by Night,
the
Man-Thing.
What was the witch? What was the magic woman in that movie? Because I felt
whatever her character was, she's now traveling with the Werewolf by Night.
Okay,
all of these characters were actually set to go on a side tangent Marvel Spotlight project called Midnight Suns, and it was essentially going to be a bunch of supernatural shit happening while the alien shit's happening, and they're just doing their thing, showing that they're still alive and still doing their thing. They're just not part of the bigger battle because they're busy with other shit,
fighting demons and things like that.
I mean, why not have Blade and Black Knight and all those other characters? Like,
oh yeah, remember when they were setting up the Black Knight? Where is he?
He was supposed to be in Blade, because that's literally that post-credit scene where he's getting the sword. That person talking to him was Blade. So, if anything, the Eternals was never going to come back except for setting up Blade. Blade was tied to that universe. But there's so many weird tangents that they're going on with Marvel that it's hard not to see that the sentiment is they're running themselves into the ground. But at the same time, there's a lot of people said, yes, the strike is taking effect. The strike is having issues. But because of the time that they've now spent waiting, they've made a more cohesive plan, and things, when they do start rolling, they'll get on page a lot faster, which
what is
be good.
Okay, so then do you think that we will see the ship start getting right? They're going to write the ship as soon as whatever that first project that comes out?
I think,
because at this point, I don't know what comes out after the Marvels. I don't know what it was supposed to be.
What was supposed to come next was Deadpool in March.
Oh, and that was supposed to be MCU timeline, yes, if you will.
Because it was going to be setting up for the Secret Wars and how the mutants are going to be tied into the Secret Wars.
Oh, then I guess the next thing that we do know is the Spider-Man Spider-Verse part 2.
So that hasn't actually gone forward enough. It lost its release date because they weren't going to make it. So they actually are putting it. They're still working on it.
You mean the animated one?
Yes.
It got what I thought for sure it was basically done.
No, so there was a big issue with the production, and they actually pulled the release date until they get further into production to where they can solidify a release date.
Oh man, that's such a bummer.
Yeah. But we have a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think that Marvel is really benefiting from the fact that they've had 6 months to not do anything except for plan out things better.
They've been forced. They've been forced to shelter in place. They've been forced to not leave the house.
And when they do resume, they have to pick very quickly which projects are we going to focus on, what's getting delayed, what's happening here, because if anything comes out next year, 2024 may only have a couple projects coming out because everything was stuck.
Wow.
We know Agatha Coven of Chaos, or whatever the hell it's called now, because it's gone through 3 different names. The Agatha show was pretty much done. So that's probably still coming out next year.
Are you sure they're not going to fire everyone and order reworks on that show?
Maybe. We know that the Marvel's What If Part 2 is coming out this Christmas, essentially.
Yeah.
So we'll have this as if they push the release date a little bit to give themselves a bit of a Q1 holdover, they could make that work. So at least their numbers don't suck. But the only projects that are close enough to finish filming for the end half of 2024
the
is
X-Men
Deadpool.
The X-Men cartoon's coming out soon.
That's coming out next year, but that's also as MCU adjacent as you can get with a lot of things.
Okay.
And then the Spider-Man cartoon is also coming out, but that's also a site. That's not MCU as per se. Like that Spider-Man show was really cool sounding until they said that, oh, by the way, it's not tied to the movies.
Okay.
And it's not tied to the MCU proper. And you're like, so it's an Elseworld story?
But you've had those TV shows on your entire life, right? The MTV Spider-Man show. I mean, they've always been these shows.
But they also said that this is the MCU Spider-Man, but from an MCU branch that's not the MCU. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Why
makes no sense? Just make him another Spider-Man and do liberties with the character.
Yeah, like if you don't have the rights to the character to do what you want to do, make your own story. Don't do what you did every time that, like, Sony had one of the best Marvel Spider-Man cartoons out there, Spectacular Spider-Man. Disney got the rights back to TV Spider-Man, killed that show and replaced it with the worst Spider-Man cartoon. And then they killed that show and replaced it with another equally meh Spider-Man show. And then here we are. So they're doing it again. They're just going to keep giving us mediocrity and expecting us to be okay with it because it's Spider-Man.
Now, one of the things I heard reported was that they were not being accurate in the budgets of these movies, that they say one number, but then, they do $50 million worth of reshoots, but they don't necessarily add those two numbers together. Do you think we see less quantity coming out of Marvel? Like, yes. We've gone for, like, we had like 10 different things. You think we're going to see like 4? Think we're going to see like 5?
Probably. I know that the big bullet points that they're going to have to be hitting is, they already announced Thunderbolts. They've already moved forward enough of that, but I don't know if it may not even happen at this point because the Thunderbolts was supposed to be this big project that should have already been filming.
How do you do Thunderbolts without doing Fantastic Four beforehand? I keep saying this to you. They said the Fantastic Four was coming. Everything you're telling me, Fantastic Four should be involved.
Fantastic Four should be their priority right now because that apparently, if they can't get Kang's situation to work out, they have to set up Doctor Doom somehow, and that's what Fantastic Four is about. But that movie's also supposed to be about Galactus and Silver Surfer, and
make it about Doctor Doom. Just make it about Doctor Doom. Get Doctor Doom into the universe, and then you can do more.
All the other shit. Yeah.
Just get him into the universe.
But at the same time, so my big gripe with how they've handled Kang so far was the big revelation that Victor Timely is this random dude from the 1800s that basically, in physics, it's called the bootstrap theory, where you a time traveler goes back in time and changes an event that only existed because that time traveler went back in time. So literally, it's this circular Terminator 2 logic.
Sure.
John Connor only exists because John Connor sent his dad to go bang his mom.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the bootstrap theory. And that's essentially what they did with Kang and Loki. It was that Kang exists because Kang sent Kang the book that Kang wrote. And it's like, okay. But at the same time, in the comics, Kang is a descendant of Mr. Fantastic. But they took that away by creating Victor Timely being this random dude who just grew up in the 1800s.
Again, it just feels like it feels like Kevin Feige let go of the reins a little bit in terms of linking all these things together, or maybe no one sat down with a bunch of Post-it notes and put this out on a wall, because it just feels like there's this drain that we're circling. It's like, well, which one are we going to go to?
There's so many incoherent storylines going on right now that I will give them all of my money if they can figure out how to make them all coherently tied together, but I do not believe it's going to happen that way. I think they're going to just do what they did with Eternals and leave some plot threads on the floor as they move forward with the other stuff.
So the actors' strike is not over and ain't going to be over. So when do we even start? I mean, do we not see any of this stuff till the end of next year?
So as of right now, word is that the last and final and best offer that the unions got is actually being argued as we speak. Apparently, there's a Zoom meeting that's happening right now with the SAG-AFTRA and the Producers Guild, and it's literally saying, your deal was good, but let's do some more work on this deal. So they're, despite the fact that this was the last, best, and final offer, the offer is still being tweaked, which makes it obvious that it wasn't the last best if they're willing to negotiate it. So there's still the possibility that this thing could end by the end of the week, but all of the game of chicken that the Producers Guild was pushing with you're only going to get this deal out of us, so take it, and now they're like, we're not taking it. It sounds like they're still arguing about it. So who knows what's going to happen by the end of this week.
I mean, I listen, Disney as a studio has a much bigger problem than just the MCU. I think the MCU is you're able to see you're able to see the blood a lot more, but none of these other Disney remakes have done any business near what they thought that they were going to do.
No. And the newest one, Snow White, is already cost them $300 million, and it got delayed a year because they're going down from scratch and CGIing out their non-binary magical creatures with actual dwarves, and they're expecting the internet to somehow forget in the next 12 months that everyone hates Rachel Zegler. The internet doesn't forget, and that's the problem, is that she made a big mess of that whole thing by shitting on Snow White the entire time, that now their best bet would be to just Batgirl this thing, to kill it and take the hit before it makes a bigger hit later down the line.
I think you have to. Like, they can't just release it streaming. It has to go somewhere, and it's going to look weird.
It's weird regardless. I was annoyed enough with how the Little Mermaid story went, but at least it kept like 60 to 70% of one by one of like the same story. They changed some pretty dramatic things, but at least the plot beats were pretty same. But everything they were doing with this Snow White movie, it's like, why even make it?
Yeah. Well, I think that sums it up right there. And I think they need to ask that question with Marvel as well. Who are you making this for? Because right now you're missing your audience. So who is that audience, and how do you get them back in again?
And a lot of people, what made the MCU as big as it was every movie was part of a bigger story, and every movie felt like it was telling a bigger story. We saw Guardians of the Galaxy 1, not because we knew those characters were going to be in the Avengers, but we knew that those characters were setting up Thanos for a story later on. That's why that existed. But then Marvel's Phase 4, which was everywhere, and now Phase 5 is also everywhere. We don't know where the funneling of the actual story is beginning, and people have kind of given up. Like Marvel's Phases 1, 2, and 3 led one big story. But everything since then has kind of lost that because, like I said multiple times, what are they aiming for, and what stories are people going to invest in just to find out that they're not going to be a part of the big story?
So right now, Taylor, they get you in a room, they close the door. Of all of these different tangents we talked about, Fantastic Four, Young Avengers, Kang Multiverse, getting the Fox characters in there, whatever that was supposed to be. What story do you think you could probably round all this up together in?
If you do it right, and what you have to do is you tell the stories that have already been started, but wrap them up in a way that requires these characters to be a part of the Secret Wars. Because that's the only way that it's going to make people not pissed off. That, like, we had all of these street level characters that did a fantastic job that led into a Defenders project, which was okay. But people want those characters, but they also want those characters on the big screen too. So you have to find a way to wrap all of these street level characters that you've now made us invested in a way that now requires us to say, okay, Kang is coming, the Secret Wars are coming. why is this dude here? Like, you're going to have to do it in a way that gets these characters involved. Otherwise, someone's going to be pissed.
Taylor, where do the Skrull invasion, where does that line up with all of this? As you're saying all of this, remember that show with Samuel L. Jackson? Where do all those aliens fit into this?
I'm starting to feel like that show's entire purpose was to fill Sam Jackson's contract and to kill off a couple characters and to set up a couple projects that have nothing to do with the greater story.
Just get him in get him in that Marvels movie, and then we don't have to pay. We're done with him.
Maybe.
And we get you think we get the other comic book Nick Fury, the Fury from the 90s?
That would be interesting if they do a Secret Wars and have like one Nick Fury and two Nick Furies, and then they kill both of them off and just call it a day.
They'll bring back what's her name though, right? The lady that they killed at the street fair, the lady who's in the Shield show. What's her name from How I Met Your Mother?
But she's died, and then she's also somehow supposed to be in the Marvels, which takes place after, but also makes no sense. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't think they know what they're doing either.
Maybe we have to go see the Marvels on the movie. Maybe we have to be able so that we can say that we saw it to talk about it. It's going to be streaming in 60 days. It's going to be
streaming by Christmas. I'll just wait till Christmas. Everyone who wants me to talk about the Marvels, when it comes out, I'll watch it on Disney.
We'll do a Christmas show about it. Yeah, we'll watch Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which is charming and delightful.
Yeah.
And then we'll watch that.
And then we might even just do a live stream on that and be like, hey, we're going to watch this. It's 90 minutes. We can do an episode with you guys. And then the entire time it's going to be us bitching about the movie.
Just watching. I'll just scream pause at you every time I need to scream about something.
Yeah.
Taylor, let's make it a date.
Okay.
I know that all of this is going to come to a head. I wonder which way the winds are going to blow, because South Park directly called out. I feel like Star Wars and Indiana Jones more than anything else, but I think Marvel also gets lumped into there. So there's a clamoring for these experiences to be good. Let's see where the dice roll.
Seriously, let's see where that all goes. Because, I mean, we're going to find out in the next few months whether or not half of these projects do see the light of day. Because I'm willing to bet the moment the actor strike ends, we're going to start seeing some movement on a lot of things. And then the reports are going to come out on what projects died during the strike. And then we'll know exactly what the hell they're doing. One last comment that I want to bring up here. Is it true that Brie Larson doesn't want to play Captain Marvel anymore because of the backlash? I've actually heard that from multiple people, that she got so much hate from the first movie that she's kind of done playing the role. And she's looking at this movie as the redeeming factor of her character, because they're characterizing her very differently and trying to make her a lot more likable. But yet this movie is tracking lower than Black Adam and The Flash.
They demoted her in her own sequel. She's not even the main. They didn't even trick us like Thor, where like, oh, there's another Thor there too. They're just like, here's all the Marvel people you need to know about.
Yeah. It's what it is, right, man?
Oof.
But on that note, Michael,
come and keep us lights afloat here over at the patreon.com/theculturenerd. Thank you so much for all of your shekels and for keeping us awake and alert. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Your contributions help us stay on the air. Taylor Murphy's been your host. I'm your co-host, Michael Santel. Our logo was by Jose Navarro, and our intro was by Taylor Murphy and Jay Stu. Whip out those cell phones. Take a picture of that QR code. It's a silly thing to say, but we say it every time. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps that algorithm keep us going. And as soon as we have more news, we will be back with castings, rumors, and cancellations. But that'll be for another day. We'll see all you kids and cats next time.
Yep. And for everyone asking, there are still comments pouring through as we're wrapping this up. The giveaways are going to continue in December. I'm probably going to do a Hanukkah/Christmas giveaway for everybody, and then we'll go from there. But I think for now, we're going to keep going just in every other month for the time being, just because we got a lot of good reception on the last one, but I have only so much money.
Yeah. We'll figure that out on our end. Anyway, we'll talk to you kids later.
Bye.
Bye.